House starts in Ontario are at an all-time low, and today we've got an article here from stories.com we are going to go over together here. The economists with RBC are sounding the alarm on a housing construction slowdown that could hit Ontario far earlier than expected. So if you already didn't think we were in a bit of an issue with new builds, we got more articles. It's everywhere at this point. New builds are having some serious downside. Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation released new housing starts data this week, and on the surface, there was something of a rosy tone. The government agency reported that the seasonally adjusted annual rate of housing starts actually did edge up 4% in July, marking the highest level of starts since September 2022. So we're only talking like a few years here that they are talking, but this would give you the impression that the starts defined as the moment of foundation are poured on a good trajectory. However, it's more indicative of a development that was actually started a long time ago. So a lot of the development is thought about, planned about, sold, and then what happens is you see eventually that stuff is unfortunately left in the wayside or canceled if it's not going to work out. Meanwhile, a new report released Wednesday by economists at RBC further point out that while starts are actually up nationally, construction in the two biggest provinces is extremely down. And as you can see here on this chart, Ontario housing starts seriously lag compared to the rest of Canada. So check out Ontario. We were, of course, under the rest of Canada since 2010, but look at it now. Things are just really slipping off there. So in 2024, we started to take that downtrend, and the rest of Canada, guess what? Of course, they started to go up. How convenient. Ontario stands out with a deep decline from mid-2024, particularly the GTA. And of course, British Columbia has also seen in moderation, but much lower extent of what Ontario is having to deal with, unfortunately. So this divergence is concerning because it threatens to perpetuate severe affordability problems that exist, social and economic hardship on the Canadians in these specific regions. While home builders and the municipalities are keen to respond, factors like the high development and building costs in Ontario, like we've talked about previously, we are at like a 250-day delay just to even get permits for things, which is just outrageous. This raises massive concern whether the future of housing stock can meet the demand. Now, Hogue goes on to say that according to CMHC's data, Ontario saw 62,000 starts in July compared to 77,000 the same month last year, representing a massive 24% drop. That's a pretty big drop, and Ontario's 6-month average has fallen to the lowest in a decade. We keep hearing the lowest in a decade, the lowest in 5 years, the lowest in 20 years. A lot of that to me is caution. Just be very, very cautious. And the situation we have here on this next chart is Ontario construction costs have grown the most in Canada. Look at Canada and look at Ontario. Ontario is it's got a nasty bump over the rest of Canada. So that's great. Alberta and Atlantic Canada are experiencing all-time highs in residential construction, the report discusses. So what's holding back Ontario? That's what we're going to get into next. Now, high development construction costs are major barriers, of course. The builders saw a rapid escalation of expenses for land, labor, and materials, compounded by development charges. Now, of course, these costs make it exceedingly difficult to have home prices that are actually affordable for people. If you have all these other increases, how are we supposed to have a home that's affordable for your average Canadian? Now, beyond that, Hogue understands that the supply overload in Ontario, which makes new inventory less attractive than the resale, is due to lower prices and high availability. Now, in the meanwhile, investors increase their pre-construction condos and they try to drive housing. We need a lot to change here, though, because if you're looking at things today and you see resale is cheaper than new build, why would anybody buy new build? So not only is it more expensive in Ontario to buy a new built property, it takes longer, they're also less appealing. So the whole package is really just not something a lot of people are interested in. Now, the next chart here is largest supply of homes for sale. Check out Ontario. Ontario just has always had more supply than the rest, but Ontario right now, we've got a big gap. So we've got more supply than the rest of the country, and obviously the demand is just gone essentially right now. So on top of all that, Ontario municipalities like Toronto are issuing more building permits than builders are actually acting on, which is interesting, which points to a major bottleneck. in the actual costs here. It says specifically the development charges, which oftentimes prevent projects from penciling out because you have the costs here of getting the project off the ground. Builders are actually just going to the table, getting a permit and saying, actually, no thanks. It's not going to be a profitable endeavor for us. We gotta walk away from it. It's just not going to work out. The full impact of the current slowdown in housing starts is not going to be felt for years. It can take 2, 3, or more years to complete a multi-unit project once the foundation is actually poured. The GTA market is still absorbing the wave of condo units completed in 2024, stated during the pandemic. So that's when they just started building a lot of these things that are now coming to fruition now. Units currently under construction, there's more than 93,000 units as of July, and that's just 11% off of an all-time high, once again, in the region, which suggests completions are likely to stay relatively plentiful for some time. The article goes on to discuss a little bit further the challenges that new builds have, but we would just kind of cut it off here because it's a lot more of the same. This new build world, at least in the GTA or in Ontario, the areas that I work in here, it is becoming a conversation of the past. Not a lot of people are interested in getting into new development. The risks, the rewards, even us as agents, telling somebody to buy a new development home or condo is becoming increasingly hard. How can you encourage somebody to buy something that's got a negative return potential instead of just buying a resale unit and buying it, getting it for the value it is today, instead of waiting 2 or 3 years and hoping it's still worth what you paid when you move into the condo? So there's a lot of risk, little reward in this market. So hope you enjoyed this one. Another breakdown here of a great article from stories.com. Just trying to figure out if new builds are ever going to rebound here in this real estate market.